utilize smart recovery, smart meetings in our program. I thought it was important for us to talk about because it's not as well known as AA and NA. A lot of people don't know a lot about it, and I think it's important for people to understand there are other types of meetings out there and what the differences are.
The first step of AA requires you to admit that you're completely powerless over alcohol. You turn things over to a higher power.
I left wanting to use because I just heard it almost felt glorified, and I was like listening to all this drug use, and I was like, hey, I'm not that bad, so I'm fine. Or B, ooh, I never tried that before. Maybe I should go think about that. So for me, that sort of speaker format kind of had a reverse effect on me, and I think it does for a lot of people, especially early on in recovery where they don't have a real strong foundation.
SMART is a different format and empowering alternative to recovery. It's science-based. It's, always evolving. SMART focuses on personal responsibility. It teaches you to manage your thoughts, feelings, and behaviors to overcome addiction. It's an awesome alternative. It's a different vibe. It's a different community. It's forward thinking, like focusing on what's going on today and what we can do to improve in the future.
If you are struggling or you're new in sobriety or recovery, you're not alone. We're here for you. Smart meetings are here for you. AANA is here for you. But this isn't something that needs to be done alone. And as we've seen through all our years of experience, being part of a community, being part of something bigger than yourself can a lot of times get you through some really hard times where you're thinking that you're all alone in this, and you're not. Today, Tom, I thought it was important for us to talk about, because we utilize smart recovery, smart meetings in our program. We sort of get people already doing that so that when they leave, they have that particular support group to go to, that recovery group, wherever they're from. But I thought it was important for us to talk about because it's not as well known as AA and NA. So a lot of people don't know a lot about it. And I think it's important for people to understand there are other types of meetings out there and what the differences are.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I'm a smart recovery facilitator, and I've been for the last I think 9 years.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah, smart recovery is definitely a great alternative approach for if you're looking for a free public recovery group to attend.
So first of all, SMART is an acronym. It's not just calling the meeting SMART, although it is SMART. What does SMART mean?
Smart recovery has a lot of acronyms, and that's kind of its thing. So, SMART means self-management and recovery training. So there's a lot of other acronyms when it comes to some of the tools presented in smart recovery. So it's definitely cool. It's catchy. It gives you stuff to take home and, remember, as far as like a tool that you can put in your pocket that you can apply to, triggers, cravings, maybe when you find yourself in a negative mindset. So yeah, self-management and recovery training.
I like that. We actually run 2 SMART meetings locally, actually 3 now, because we also do one over at our outpatient in San Jose. And the room is packed. I mean, there's like 20, 30 people in each meeting. And that goes to show that it's needed and wanted. And in fact, we have a lot of our clients graduate and then go back to whatever town they're from and become smart facilitator trained and start that in their own areas, which is a really pretty easy way to start doing your own meeting through the company for sure.
Yeah, the smart facilitator training it's accessible. It takes about a week to complete. It's a series of lectures, videos, and various readings and, little tests as you go. But it gets you prepared to run a smart meeting. And yeah, it's I think that point of people wanting to bring a smart meeting where they live, since the pandemic, there's so many meetings that have kind of just moved online and have stayed there. But it's really a great thing for anyone in recovery to, start their own meeting. It's essentially, it's a way to give back, and it's a way to keep yourself involved in the recovery community and, feel a part of something bigger.
And I think that's key, because you're right. I mean, when the pandemic shut, all in-person meetings ended, and we were some of the few that sort of brought it back, at least locally. And although I love the accessibility of being able to do something virtually from the comfort of your own home, it's also nice for people in recovery to actually be physically surrounded by people, like-minded individuals going through the similar things in person and in connection with one another. And that's why a lot of our grads will go start their own meeting, because they realize they're going back into a community and they can do AA and NA meetings, but creating their own culture where they can continue to get their own recovery and help others, but also provide it for other people, is also very rewarding.
Yeah, I agree.
So let's talk about some of the differences for those that are wondering. What are some of the main differences between AA and NA and a SMART meeting?
So, well, with AA, there's a spiritual component there, and that can be a barrier for some people when they're, first getting into recovery. And so, yeah, in AA, you turn things over to a higher power. And so if you're, an atheist or an agnostic, that can be simply kind of uncomfortable with that spiritual language and, can maybe make you feel a little alienated. And then there's a powerlessness concept as well. So first, the first step of AA requires you to admit that you're completely powerless over alcohol. And, there's other people that would prefer a different framework, that emphasizes personal empowerment and choice rather than this lifelong powerlessness. And then there's the disease model focus, and recovery is, very serious. And but some individuals would prefer to focus like forward, instead of, looking back and, constantly looking at your mistakes, and be a little more goal oriented rather than this constant focus on, living as a diseased person. So those are some of the things that some people, may struggle with AA, and then to kind of contrast that with smart recovery. So smart recovery is, it's an alternative meeting. Obviously we've clarified that, and it's a global community of mutual support that is scientifically based. So it's science-based, and it's, always evolving, and it's offering a modern and secular, and empowering alternative to recovery. So yeah, like I was saying, it's secular and scientific. So, SMART is based on the latest cognitive behavioral therapy. So in smart recovery, there's a lot of tools that utilize what is called CBT. And there's also tools that utilize the REBT, which is another form of therapy, and it's rational emotive behavioral therapy. And these are some of the different principles that SMART uses. And yeah, like I was saying, it focuses on these tools and techniques that you can learn. And it's not, a spiritual belief that you need to adopt to help yourself get through addiction. So, it emphasizes it emphasizes empowerment, and unlike AA, it focuses on powerlessness. Smart focuses on personal responsibility and power, and it teaches you to manage your thoughts, feelings, and behaviors to overcome addiction. And the third thing I kind of wanted to mention is that it is forward looking. So the goal isn't just to admit your past mistakes, it's to build a life you genuinely want to live, and focusing on current choices and future goals.
I like that. So, and that was one of the things I remember about AA and NA is you would go in and people would just recount their life story of why they are where they are, and go into great details about their addiction. This is different than that. You're not recounting all your old war stories. It's more like talking about productive things in the present that you can do differently.
Yeah. And you're just more talking about like yourself today and like what you're dealing with today. And there's tools that are presented to help you with today's problems.
And that's done at a group level.
Yeah, at a group level. And, the AA meeting has a particular format. And often, like what you're referring to, is there's a speaker, someone who's sharing their story, where they came from, and then how the 12 steps have helped them change their life. And so when people refer to, war stories and things like that, Some speakers really dive into, how bad, their disease was, right? They talk about, the different frames of mind they were in, the poor choices that they made, and then they, later contrast that with how the 12 steps helped them. Whereas Smart is a different format. There's no speaker given night to night, and then some AA meetings aren't like all like that as well. There's not always a speaker meeting. There's other formats of AA meetings, but just kind of highlighting that particular format because that's what I've personally experienced the most of is that format. But the Smart recovery is a little bit more open when it comes to talking. There's crosstalk is allowed. So the meeting usually starts, with a little bit of an intro, and then people check in. Each person checks in the room and talk about, how things are going for them that day or that week. And their other, attendees of the meeting are allowed to collaborate and give suggestions and work live with that crosstalk format to help people through some problems that they may be experiencing. So maybe somebody that's, more experienced as somebody who's been going to Smart Recovery for a while may have tools they may suggest that they've learned in other meetings or, just, different bits of advice sometimes are suggested or brought up different ways to frame things cognitively. Maybe you should look at it like this or something like that. So yeah, big difference in like the flow of the meeting.
I love that. And so when you say, and this is really big because Elevate operates this way, but when you say when they respond cognitively, like I think this is really important because this is why people prefer like Elevate and Smart. And I'm not saying as opposed to AA or NA, but when someone feels almost diagnosed, like, oh, this is why you're that way, or they feel like you're telling them what their problem is or why they are this way. Oh, it's because this happened to you or that. It's been my experience that a lot of people don't respond to that. You don't know me, you don't know what causes that. But whereas if you could give someone the tools, you can sort of lay it out there for them to cognitively look at the problem, the solution, and say, how does that apply to me? Then it becomes more realistic for them. And then it seems to have a much bigger impact because it came from them and it resonates with them. And it's personally their own, not something that was somebody else's that may have been suggested to them.
Yeah, the more you're exposed to CBT, so cognitive behavioral therapy, the more you kind of become aware of the way people phrase things. So, when people are checking in, sometimes they're looking at a particular situation, through a certain lens, right? And, there's another person in group who may have a different perspective because they have maybe more awareness. Maybe they can see some of those negative beliefs that are kind of sewn into the way people communicate. And so yeah, some of those things are can be brought up in a tactful way. And a lot of us are aware that we're emotional creatures, beings. There's certain things that can set us off, and I think a lot of people in the smart recovery format have a way of kind of helping people change their thinking, and a lot of what we're struggling with day to day is can be perspective, just the way you're looking at it, right? And so smart recovery really focuses on, yeah, that shift that you could make cognitively, right? So just the reframing things, rephrasing things, talking to yourself in a different way.
Yeah, because sometimes when you're in the middle of a problem, you're in too close. You can't see it because you're in it. And it's nice to sort of be able to talk about that in a safe environment and get objective and impartial, maybe viewpoints that can help you sort of process it. So it's really pretty phenomenal that this is something free that people can do. They can go once, twice, 3 times a week, however many times you need, in a supportive, like-minded environment that's there to help you work through whatever you're going through right now and not fixate on specific things because of where you're at on your steps or different things. Like you could literally jump in at any point, any meeting, and just go with it, and it's going to work for you where you're at in your life and in your recovery.
Yeah, definitely. It's an awesome alternative, and it's a different vibe, it's a different community, and yeah, it's forward thinking, like focusing on what's going on today and what we can do to improve in the future, which is awesome. And so yeah, Smart Recovery, has a 4-point program is what it's called. So, tools for self-empowerment. And the 4-point program is essentially the four things that Smart likes to focus on. And so, the first thing is enhancing and maintaining motivation. And these can be in any order, and there's tools that focus on each one of these four elements. So there's, a set of maybe, 3 to 6 different tools or lessons that the facilitator can present that's kind of honing in on these different areas. So enhancing and maintaining motivation. So a common tool used for this is the cost benefit analysis, or clarifying your values in life and to keep your reasons for changing strong. So we want to maintain motivation and improve that and continue to have that when we're trying to be sober, because a lot of us will uh, you know start thinking about the good times, or it's the denial essentially starts to kind of
Mm.
creep back in. You start to forget where you came from, and that's the reason for AA and NA. They have these presenters, they talk about these stories, and their goal is to try to do that as well, but it's just through a different means. And then the second point is coping with urges. So, yeah, cravings, urges, learning specific tools to manage your cravings rather than, just simply accepting them as this lifelong battle. So, it can include distraction techniques and, various tools to help you work through, those moments where you may have a craving or an urge. And the third point is managing thoughts, feelings, and behaviors. So there's quite a few tools on this, because this is where the CBT and REBT, tools kind of are within the program. So, challenging irrational beliefs, and managing emotional distress that may trigger you to, want to use a substance. And the last point is living a balanced life. So there's a set of tools that focus on this particular subject. So developing, a lifestyle that incorporates healthy activities, social connection, and and just an overall satisfaction in life to, help prevent this urge, or, this desire to maybe want to relapse. So that's the 4-point program.
Yeah, and it's good because this is all stuff that people in recovery can struggle with. I know for myself personally, when I would go to the speaker meetings, I left wanting to use because I just heard it almost felt glorified, and I was like listening to all this drug use, and I was like, A, I'm not that bad, so I'm fine. Or B, ooh, I never tried that before. Maybe I should go think about that. So for me, that sort of speaker format kind of had a reverse effect on me. And I think it does for a lot of people, especially early on in recovery, where they don't have a real strong foundation and they're almost just hearing like, and I don't want to say glory stories because I don't think people are glorifying it. However, when they're deeply explaining their addiction, it can feel like triggering for certain individuals. So I like that how this doesn't necessarily focus on that kind of thing, more like what are your issues today? What can we do to solve it? And what can we do to work on these urges or these triggers or these types of things?
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, sometimes, some of those talks and meetings, hearing, someone's story of where they came from, can be, yeah, definitely triggering. And not to say that people don't talk about things that happened in their past in a smart meeting, but like I was saying in the beginning, it's definitely more forward thinking, and where you're checking in on, yeah, like how you're doing today. And sometimes people are stuck in the past and they're bringing stuff up, But but there's a good balance there, and that one person that may be stuck in the past isn't the person you're going to hear from, the entire evening, right? So there's there's a good healthy balance of, yeah, just different, people, experiencing different issues. And, sometimes you may not relate to every single person that is checking in, but there's bound to be, one or two people, that you're like, wow, that was actually helpful for me to hear, or I feel like I'm not alone. I relate a lot to that struggle. I was going through that last year, and there's this like nice connection formed, and it's done during the meeting. A lot of that kind of crosstalk is, in 12 steps in AA is, it's expected kind of to happen after the meeting or before the meeting. There's not this like collaboration during the actual meeting, where there's, clear communication between people. I mean, you are often given the ability to share, like how that talk may, have landed with you or something like that. But like I was saying, yeah, there's not this clear, open back and forth, which, has been great. It's helped millions of people, 12 steps in AA, but we just wanted to present just an alternative to that. So, yeah, just wanted to clarify that.
Yeah, we are definitely all for whatever helps an individual. This is just another alternative. Smart's not as known. And so we want to get it out there because we utilize it. We think it's a great format. In fact, you were up at the local college, UCSC, and they were asking if we could start doing smart meetings up there because, again, it's a group of people, it's a demographic that needs help. It's something that's free and it can be available for anybody who needs it. And then certainly for somebody who is like, I want to give back. This is a great way, very low barrier to entry, do the course, go to some meetings, you can facilitate it yourself. And there's something that is so empowering about being able to give back, especially for somebody who's been on the other side of it.
Yeah. And yeah, a lot of people are really looking for a recovery meeting that has that kind of secular aspect to it, and a different frame of mind, a different approach, that more empowerment, like you have a choice and you have tools.
And you have a group and you're not alone.
Yeah, at Elevate, we do smart meetings every week. So every Friday, in the program with us. So if you're in a residential program with us, either the 30-day program or the 60-day program, or some people are even on a 90-day program, there's a smart meeting every Friday. So you become really aware of this style of meeting, and, you become familiar with the tools. And, yeah, our hope is that you can be active in your community when you leave treatment. So you go to a smart meeting, you go to it online or you go to it in your hometown, and you're able to participate and contribute to that community, which is super, super cool. So, and it's just an alternative that aligns with, our beliefs as a program.
Awesome. So if somebody wanted to find if there's a local smart meeting in their area, what is the best way they can do that?
Do a little Google search, and Smart Recovery, I believe it's smartrecovery.org. But if you search it in Google, it should take you directly there. And then there's a spot where it says meetings. And then all the meetings are listed both in person and online. And you can zero that in on your area, by your city, or I think by zip code as well.
Awesome. And I just want to reiterate, if you are struggling or you're new in sobriety or recovery, you're not alone. We're here for you. Smart meetings are here for you. AANA is here for you. But this isn't something that needs to be done alone. And as we've seen through all our years of experience, being part of a community, being part of something bigger than yourself can a lot of times get you through some really hard times where you're thinking that you're all alone in this, and you're not.